very often I think of a lot of things uh, which can be potential podcast material. But today I specifically have a very provocative line that came up in my mind. Uh, what if life is not a journey but a series of destinations? Uh, and every destination matters during the time we are there. And what if we always got it wrong that life is a journey? Uh, on that note, let me begin and a very warm welcome to everyone to the Values Workshop. I have with me regular guest Hemant Gupta, who is gracefully said yes at a very short notice. Thank you, Hemant, for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, this topic came from yesterday. I was wishing somebody on her birthday, and she said it feels very nice that childhood friends call us up and wish us. I said it also means that we are getting older if we are liking such things. And then suddenly I said there was a sense of ease and warmth and uh, coming home to a very normal talk. There was nothing, how are kids, how are you doing, how's your hubby and whatever, and how are things at your end, and all good, mom is okay, yeah. And yet there was this sense of calmness in that conversation, and I realized it is really this what we kind of ask for friendships, from friendships rather, that this kind of ease of being. And then there are times when you have, I realize in when we were younger, then it was about going to what parties and which picnics and Goa and Kerala and or else achievements. So that time we were more hyper and more ambitious. So that happiness was a different kind of happiness. Then when we were younger, there was a more innocent kind of happiness where we did not know uh, what we wanted out of life, but there was not much pressure. You were just going with the flow. The only tension was exam time. You look forward to vacations, reading a lot of books, and going out with friends and playing cricket and uh, getting wet in the rain, kind of. So this whole thing of this life being one strong block of experience somehow seems a little uh, easy on hearing, and it sounds very inspirational. Life is a journey, so if you're going through a bad time, then you look forward to what's coming next. But if one realizes at every point, if you are in the here and the now, you really are fulfilled in a manner you may like or dislike, but you're fulfilled in the sense that you may have a tough time, but it is what you're fully occupied with, and life is fully occupied with you. It wants you to look at it and be with it and whatever, including figuring out or not figuring out. I'm not saying one has to be judgmental, oh, I figured it out or I didn't. Just being with it in whatever position one's mind or body is. How do you see this phenomena? Have I kind of looked at it in a different way, or is it old wine in a new bottle kind of thing?
I think, as always, there are such beautiful invocations from humanity. Um, I keep this book close to me. I keep some books close to me and I read them. I'll give a snapshot. It's
Yeah.
called Ek Purv Mein Bahut Se Purv. It's a poem. It's a book, a collection of poem by a wonderful writer, Vinod Kumar Shukla. Uh, if you're okay, I'll just read a few lines from that
Please,
poem.
please.
It's in Hindi, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's. The title of the poem is "कोई पर भरोसा है."
Hmm.
इस हो रही बारिश की पहली बूंद कौन सी थी, कहाँ गिरी, ये कौन बताए। बारिश की बूंदों को गिनना बाकी है और कोई पर भरोसा है। इस जंगल का पहला उगा पेड़ कौन सा था, फिर दूसरा, तीसरा, सब गिना दे। इस पेड़ की पत्तियों में पहली उगी पत्ती कौन सी है, कुल कितनी पत्ती है। पहला सवाल दुनिया का आखिर क्या था, उत्तर उसका क्या मिला, जो सही न होकर पहला गलत उत्तर जरूर हुआ होगा, वो क्या था? एंड द पोएम कंटिन्यूज, राइट? सो
Yeah.
I think this poem, or in some way, speaks to what you are saying. If you see,
Yeah.
I can halt here, or I can continue.
Yeah, I would just want to explain in two lines. So, what is the seed of where we stand? Is the seed a tree of whose seed we are following up and has become another tree, which is the first in a series of ideas or talks or mistakes that one makes? Where does the series start? Where does the series continue? Or where does it end? Or where does it begin? We do not know. That is the kind of thought that the poem is sharing, if I got the hang of it correctly. Please speak, it is so beautiful.
um, um, so let me, for myself and you and the fellow souls who might be a part of this, it's interesting that suppose I were to give you my address, postal address,
Hmm.
uh, or let's say if I were to say EMP 73103, and I just say that's it. But that won't satisfy. You won't be able to send me anything there. Why? Because I'll need to add some more layer,
Yeah.
right? I'll add a layer of, let's say, EMP. Then I'll add a layer Thakur village. Then I'll add a layer Kandivali East, Mumbai, pin code, Maharashtra, India, right? So if you see, there are these 7, 8 layers, depending on the question I'm asking. I'm the same person staying in the same place, but that place has different filters or different tones or different indicators depending on the question that you ask. It's the same place, right? So if you're already here, I won't tell you I'm in Maharashtra. I'll tell you, it's EMP 70, EMP. If you're already in EMP, then I'll tell you it's EMP 73. If you're already in 73, I'll say it's 103. So I think in some sense, where we are and where the other is, most of the times you're not aware and not articulate enough about that. And hence we keep pointing to various things to each other and, sort of giving address to each other. That मैं यहाँ हूँ, conceptually यहाँ हूँ, feeling space में यहाँ हूँ, या यहाँ हमको जाना चाहिए, or that's the space we need to be in. So I think that is one big both an insight and I think the vexing issue with humanity as such. When we describe concepts, when we describe these states, when we articulate them, we don't know our own address, we don't know your address. We're just trying to find the address and meet each other. It may be called journey, it may be called destination, whatever it is. I think we want to get to some place where we can share that concept, share that experience, share that intention, and then do something with it. That'll help here.
There is this phrase called here now, very often used in different kinds of spiritual circles, or be in the present, and those kind of uh, words which are driving you to a certain kind of meaning in a thought. Are you saying that we are trying to tell the other that this is where here now is for me, and similarly trying to find out if you are also here now at this point of time, and the miscommunication is that we are so occupied by our own version of here now. Uh, I'm using here now very loosely, not in the terms that others use, because that effectively means if you're present, then you're listening, then you're aware, then you're mindful. I'm not using it in those terms. I'm saying my description of my address, to use your term, is telling you, look, this is what I understand contextually, this is where my mind is, this is where my body is. So, even as an example, you and I have had many conversations on the Values Workshop podcast, but we are not the same people. In fact, I definitely know one or two points where we both kind of come home to each other's point of view very very relaxedly and uh, with no conflict at all. Although the opening positions, while we did not mention, were perhaps contrarian. Uh, so if I always was like one has to speak about experience and you quoted from where you had read or this, but we've come to accept each other's position very beautifully, very mindfully, very respectfully. So all those things have happened on their own. There's no conscious effort to try and understand or make the other understand this is where I stand. So our here nows have found their own balance in their own way. What do you have to say about my use of this phrase? Uh, if you want to build on it or you want to say something.
I think there's so many angles to this, and my mind can already start running riot around. But here is what is emerging for me.
Can you speak up a little?
Yeah, is this better? Is this better?
I think, yeah, just keep your volume a little higher.
Yeah. So imagine on the x-axis we have here so I think let's keep the grids aside. There is the here, now, this, and there is the there, then, and that. Right? So you have here, now, this, and there, then, and that. My sense is that when I am talking to myself or when I'm interacting with the other, I'm constantly invoking both because one cannot exist without the other. You need the existence of black to understand white. You need the existence of white to understand black, or a spectrum. I would even go further and say, I need to stay away from binaries. So in that sense, when I say I'm here, now, this, I sometimes have to become aware that it's not there, then, and that. Or in the moment, before the moment, or after the moment, I have to become aware that it was not there, then, and that. Or when I'm there, then, and that, then because I have an experience of here, now, this, I can only then point out that this was there, then, and that. So the principle here is things exist. There are some things in the world that there is the nature of existence where one exists or one can exist only when there is the other. That's the first invocation I have for myself and fellow souls. Because we've had some conflicts, we as in any of us would have had conflicts. We know what it is like to not have a conflict. And vice versa.
Yeah.
And then so that's the first principle, that when you have experienced something, you try and have the other experience in vis-a-vis that experience.
Okay.
Now, am I then saying that everything in the existence has this property? I don't know. But a lot of things in our life has this property. And then I go a little further and I say, could there be adaptive conflict and maladaptive conflict, and adaptive non-conflict and maladaptive non-conflict? What do I mean by that? An adaptive conflict could be that we know we are in conflict. We are aware of the conflict. We also know that we need to have it under certain boundaries and bounds, and channel that conflict to reach to a place where you and I would not have reached alone. That to me is an adaptive conflict. A maladaptive conflict could be the conflict arises, we lose ourselves in a manner where we reach to a place where we become hurtful of each other, hating of each other, disgusting of each other, not wanting to come and have interactions further with each other. And if this becomes chronic, these series of bad kind of conflict becomes chronic, then then we know we all have that experience how it plays out in our life. So that's the case of a bad form of conflict or maladaptive one. Now, the case of adaptive non-conflict is sometimes, let's say right now in the conversation, something would arise and that might give rise to a conflict, but you just let go. You say, leave it be, jane do. So you're not entering into that conflict right now. You withdraw, you give it time, you postpone, you forgive, you ignore. So that's a good form of non-conflict. A bad form of non-conflict is uh, when you had to have a spine and speak up, but you did not speak up because you wanted to avoid a conflict, is a bad form of non-conflict. So I think as humans, we have all four experiences. We just don't have the vocabulary and language to see all of these together. And hence, it's easier for us to get tricked or trapped into one or two of the quadrants and believe that that's a reality. I'll halt here.
So you said too many things,
Sorry.
and no, each of them would have perhaps gotten a response, but there was one thought stuck in my head because it kind of resonated immediately with what you said. And so the thought is that as soon as I say the word, it's already the past tense of it. This was a thought that crossed my mind this morning because the thought has already happened before I have communicated it to you. Again, like you gave a disclaimer, it happens many times, not always. Or perhaps it may be happening always, but I'm unsure of it. I didn't have enough time to pursue that thought. But I realized that very often, so I was thinking of what could be a possible topic for today. I was running short, I was running some errands in the morning and I had to finish, and suddenly there was rain and all kinds of things happening, and I realized that I had given you a fixed time and I needed to be home by that time. I had not set up my podcast table. So I was thinking what can be done and what is it, and that's how the thought of okay, it's a journey, or right now it's just raining, let's be in the here now. But I said I already have this thought. Now it's finished and I'm verbalizing it. And then, that's another way of looking at things. How do you... So, besides the nuances of adaptive and maladaptive conflicts that you raised, another point that I want to come up with, so I don't have a question, but there's a point I have about... Of late, when there is less work and I'm around people, my family and my close friends only, certain time conflicts arise which are about almost nothing, but they are big conflicts because there's nothing to do perhaps. So you are fighting about plate dhoke nahi rakha and something, anything, a very small thing, but because you are engaging and it is engagement of a conflict in a conflict laden manner rather than, so this falls into the bracket of what you would have called maladaptive conflict, one version of maladaptive conflict. Then there is so having pursued that thought a couple of times when it has happened, I realized that it's always about me. It's always about me. Good or bad doesn't matter. Like it is my prism in that space and time, how I look at that thing. So it could be the same thing that you haven't cleaned the plate and kept or whatever. I don't know. Anything could be a issue. But it becomes a big issue because I could have solved it in 10 seconds. And I chose not to because I wanted to have a fight. I wanted to have a fight because something else was in my mind which was not related to this. It could have been we have a podcast coming up and I'm more concerned that I will get my setup in time so that we finish this and I have other things to do, or else something else which is stopping it. I am not naming it because I am not, to connect back to our first invocation, I am not telling you where I am in the here now. I am just caught up in it and all of these things, and also you put it that there is some kind of quote unquote, in my head it was memory and the present. So memory and present come and interject because they are now becoming a new mix. and again something happens and that goes out, and again they become a memory and a new mix, and again you come back. So this keeps happening continually. So, but having said that, I am trying to bring a layer of thought where if I come to the point that I can resolve it for myself, and by resolve I really mean resolution, even if I don't execute it. So I understand, okay, okay, look, I should have named the issue. Okay, look, this is the problem I had, and that's why I landed up having a word or two which I shouldn't have. But it was not about you. It was not about the plate. It was not nothing to do with that event at hand. I had something else on my mind, which was chewing into me, and I had not resolved it yet. That kind of helps resolve the new problem that I have created, the new conflict. But it all has to start with me. I have to really understand where I came from, be kind to myself, be kind to the other person. Sometimes you are also blessed with the vision that you understand what the other person has come from, because they'll end up saying things when they are angry that you've not been hearing because you were angry at that time, but later when you are contemplating, it could be a uh, it could be a earthing of sorts. You're really coming down and saying, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal, it's this, and then you are able to let go, and then it becomes easier to solve the conflict because you have resolved it in your mind first. uh, Something you want to say to this?
I think I think as I speak with you, as I interact with you, I imagine that inside of me there are these trillions and trillions of cells, biological cells. And I would imagine that there is this white blood cells, red blood, WBC, RBC, platelets, and all of them. And I think at any given point of time, there are some wars and fights happening inside, which I'm not even aware of at the level of biology. But it's happening inside of. And I don't know the ways that they contribute to my quality of presence right now here. I think they just show up when there is a certain threshold of pain or a threshold of alarm that the body generates, whether it's about moving the posture a bit, if it's become too uncomfortable, or it is a mechanical alarm or a biological chemical alarm inside the body. And unless it comes there, those wars and conflicts keep happening, is my assumption. Similarly, all my experiences, all my memories, all my expectations, all my desires, all met needs and unmet needs, the way they are entangled, I can only over a period of time become aware of the entanglement. And to become aware of the entanglement could mean the following: that some of the entanglements could be resolved, but there would be some that cannot be resolved. You have to live with them. Like I can't go and undo the past. I have to live with something that I have as a regret. But now that regret might take another form. I may have a different explanation to it. So I think there are these entanglements inside of us at the level of emotions, psyche, and then the mental models we create of each other and the balance sheet we keep maintaining of each other. And we do not have the time to reconcile them. So there would be a lot of imbalance in the balance sheet. And we do not know कि आपके साथ का imbalance जो है balance sheet में, I'll go and do some debit credit with somebody else, and then so
Hmm.
so I believe that our lives are lived believing that we are awake, but in reality a lot of sleepwalking. And those sleepwalks keep giving a lot of nightmares to us, accidents to us every day. and we just try to rush and find reasons for them and try to quick fix them. I think that the journey is one of a deeper, sustained practice over a period of time, with series of failures and integration of them, and over a period of time creating and coming to a space of poise to manage the inner and outer disruption. Uh, and then some could be avoided, some are reconciled, some you come up with hacks and creativity to resolve, some you live with. So I that's my
Yeah.
coming up.
Again, I think your answers lead to multiple questions perhaps, but I stick with one that sounds very intriguing and in a way, uh, in its own way, it's a detour from what we are trying to do and see a different angle to the answer you've given. So you use the word entanglement instead of saying we are entangled, or we are, if you want to be very specific, we are doing the entangling knowingly or unknowingly. Uh, my question to you is, entanglement has a nice relieving factor to it, that it is not me who's causing it necessarily, it is a series of things happening and has caused it to happen. So I can distance myself and maybe look at it. Uh, so this impersonalization of the event, of the time space, of the happening, even if it is happening to me, gives me a perspective that otherwise is difficult to gauge, because I am forced to look through the prism of myself most times. I cannot not be Bunty. There will always be a. But when I manage this fragile sense of impersonalization, even for a moment or two, it reveals something else which in the short run increasingly adds to the personalization of, oh, now I know this also. But at the same time, it is also a relieving factor, because it gives a perspective that is difficult to reach. So while you may have your method, which we discussed once earlier, was that you read and you connect the dots between several things happens, and I have been moving otherwise. Also, I think because I have realized there is some part of your uh, way that I also manage to integrate knowingly or unknowingly. So I may give a reference to something I've read, or this line has been said like this, or so obviously there are references coming up there as well. But just the fact that I don't hold on to whether this is your way or my way, or right way or wrong way, or good way or bad way, it gives me the distance to see it. Okay, this is the phenomena that is happening. To go back to what you said, I found it very amusing that if you and I are having a fight, so I say, look, today my red blood corpuscles were just not themselves. They were bloody losing the war, and they asked me to burst out, so I burst out at you. And in a way, it is so funny, because what you said is so intricate to our being. If nothing else, even if the lack of conflict would be there, there is this whole set of organs working in tandem with each other, not causing a stomach pain or a headache or a loss of vision in the immediate, and doing their work uh, ceaselessly, uh, seamlessly all the time. It's like the world's most brilliant factory in action, and we have just no time to even watch or figure out. If there are ways to figure out, there are meditators who've spoken about it, yogis who have stopped their hearts, and those kind of guys. So there is obviously some study they've done, even if it is gimmicky, if one wants to call it that. I am not getting into but the fact that they have worked enough on their bodies and studied this machine enough to figure out what is working, when, how to make it last or not last, whatever their version of life and their practice, says that there might be a point to borrow from them, and while we are so mesmerized by the events and the eventfulness of life, maybe silence and calming down helps us watch the entanglement, uh, quote unquote, in a better way. Uh, I want to stop here in case you want to say something on that. Do you think that this has merit, or again it's psychobabble in the way that I put that we are still great because we can do this? Is that what it is? It could also be both. Now to borrow from your versions, you can't have just one stock answer to that.
Yeah, I think the response to that, Bunty, would be the following. So imagine there's something happening in my biology, and it sends alarm in form of pain. Now, do I sit back and I say, hey, the biology is entangled and I don't need to do anything about it? So then I'll have to live with the pain. And then I need to develop endurance around it or acceptance around it. And if I'm able to do that and live this journey of life, what I want from life, if I can achieve doing that, so be it. That could be the journey for someone. Uh, Someone would say, I have 3 days, I'll just sleep 3 days and the body will take care of itself. And I can manage my life by taking these 3 days coverage. And that is their journey. Somebody says, I have a very important presentation in an hour, and it's coming in, it's on my path to what I want from my life and what I want to become, what I want from them. So then they might put some medication in the body, and that's their journey. So I think the explanations and the entanglement may be whatever they are. I think what you want to pursue in life, and towards that, what choices and action you need to take, that needs to speak to this entanglement and the explanation. That's number one. Number two, um, there is a 2 by 2 of, do you know the sources of suffering? On the x-axis, imagine you know the sources of suffering and you do not know the sources of suffering. And on the y-axis, you can do something about it, you cannot do something. So you get 4 combinations. No, can do. No, cannot do anything about it. Don't know, can't do anything. Don't know, can do something about it. So within ancient wisdom, there is this element of Adi Deva and Adi Bhuta, Adi Bhautika, uh, which are elements of uh, Adi Devika would be unknown sources of suffering and you can't do anything. So either you, then your cosmology and belief system will tell you something to do. And what do you do with things that you cannot know and can't do anything? So then it depends on the belief system you come from. So imagine a person who's detected with something very terminal, and the person doesn't know what's going to happen. Now, depending on the cosmology and belief system, the person might then try to explain to themselves and have those choices in action in wake of this reality that they do not know what is the source of the suffering and they can't do anything. When we move to, the sources of suffering, but you can't do anything. Let's say nature's fury. If it's raining and raining and raining and there are cloudbursts and cloudbursts, in those moments when it's happening, you can't do, you can just save yourself to the extent that you can. But again, at the mercy of what and how the nature will unfold, right? So that's a case of Adi Bhautika. You know the sources of suffering, but you can't do anything about it. And then there are these other two things where you may know something and you can do something about it. And you don't know anything, but you can do something about it. I think under that domain, I would say that practices, the way you take care of biology, your body, how you manage your emotions, how you manage your psyche, what do you want from life and why do you want it from, why do you want those things in life? How do you manage conflict with others? I think there are these elements that could show up, and if one wants something from life, then one can pick up some elements from this and try being more prepared, more conscious of their choices and action. So that would be my submission.
Uh, One of the tangential thoughts running in my head is coming from the topic that we've chosen. If life is not a journey, it's a series of destinations. So if one were to qualify it, so while I'm talking to you, there is a certain mind space and body space that I'm coming from. See, even if at this point suddenly I had a bad headache and I could not continue, I would not be the same person. So bodily, I would change, even if my mind is completely occupied with what I want to share with you uh, at this moment. And on the other hand, just in your last answer, for a brief moment, my mind wandered and I kind of got it back. But I missed that one line because I couldn't be in two spaces at once. So part of me quickly came back and I didn't bother about what I missed because I said, this I will have to see when I'm seeing the episode. Okay, what is it that he said? How did he qualify this next line? But let me go with the flow and I'll get a hang of what is happening. But it was just a brief moment, tuck tuck, and I knew. But I had already missed whatever was being said. Uh, so that means that body was here, but the mind had kind of not accompanied me in this conversation for that brief moment. Now, is there a method to studying oneself in this continually evolving mechanism that we are blessed with? Is there anything that you uh, do? I'm saying not as a practice, I'm saying not as a formal practice. So, formal practice could be some kind of meditation that you're doing. Uh, but during the day, uh, is there a series of uh, reminders or mindfulness, or I want to get into the space where there are no judgments happening if possible, but still there is this reasoning of, okay, I want to see this bunty evolve, what is happening. So off late, I'll give you an example. Even on the cushion sometimes it happens. So yesterday there was the longest sitting and I was very restless for quite some part of the sitting. But instead of getting worked up about being restless, I said, okay, so this is what you got to see, that you are restless at this moment. So then my mind would wander because it was restless, but I would not mind it. I would just bring it back to where I was restless. Again, it would go because this happened constantly for. So I was sitting with someone and the other meditator got up. She ended up saying, what a good sitting it was. I said, yeah, good restless sitting. So my qualification immediately came up and I realized this is how I was qualifying also. But I'm saying there is this ability to distance oneself from oneself and try and go a layer beneath the immediacy of what the judgment might be, is one way that I was doing it without knowing it. This is something I have of late tried to do. Like it's okay to flounder and not meet your immediate or long-term goal in the moment, but be aware where you stand. If that happens, then things will calm down. Because otherwise, what happens is then there is this whole cycle of I did it, I repented, I felt bad, and it keeps going. But it is not really helping the cause of coming back to where you want to be, which is this moment of sorts. Something that I've been trying of late, but not with success all the time. But it's a process. It's something that I'm keen to figure out what is happening and watch. This evolution has opened up a knot in me, and the rest of me is still knotted up about it. How can you be so free flowing about this? Why are you not maintaining the discipline? Where is your breath at this moment in the meditation or whatever the topic of observation? So that is also happening simultaneously, but there's one little clog in the wheel I have put to stop it and say, okay, wait, don't judge, just let's see what happens. Is it going down the right track of thought? And it is loose. It is not very ऐसा this or this नहीं है. कभी ये भी चलेगा, कभी ये भी चलेगा. So over to you. Sorry, I wanted to explain because I want to go into the nuance of the thing for you to help us understand how you work during the day. So if you were to start with some example of how you had a problem and you resolved it or you didn't, whatever.
I think इसको एक particular filter से देख सकते हैं कि first of all I will have to qualify that everything that I'm doing and have been doing comes from the space of system one. System one means driven by habits, biases, conditioning, groupism, and it's easy for me to replicate. It's easy for my being, body to replicate that. Because anything new will demand an awareness, a relationship with failure, vulnerability, and a sustained practice over a period of time before that itself becomes again an automaton. So imagine there is this version one, like we have versions of WhatsApp, right? There are some feature functionalities which still continue, which was there in the original version, but new features have come up. But every time there is a new feature, we have to download it. वो करना पड़ता है. अगर नहीं करेंगे, then we lose that version, right? So similarly, we are all, in some sense, we have a version of hardware and software inside of us, and we are running those versions. And if I want to include more feature functionality or replace certain, then some work, some coding has to be done, right, inside. So that coding could be in form of explanations, could be in form of behavior, could be in various other ways. So one filter that I can use is, there was a system one, then I said there would be some changes that I need to have or some addition I have to add. Then I keep working at it before it itself also becomes system one, because it's easy to reproduce. It's easy as a habit, right? But then I realized, no, there are some more. So then again, I have to put in that focus. Again, I have to put in something. फिर वो अच्छा जब भी मैं whenever I start with something new, it will have some displacement or some conflict here in the existing habits and biases. It won't be a smooth, not always a smooth integration. There would be something that will. So that, I think that becomes the engine of life when continuously you have this system one and system two modes. You know that through the day you live through system one majoritarily, but then you also create system two hacks during the day so that new practices can come in or new reflections can come in. And then you try to, over a period of time, integrate some of them, or let's say, or leave out some of the old practices, add new or modify. It could be any of these. Now that's one filter that one can use. The other filter is asking the question, what am I doing to take care of my body today? What am I doing to take care of my emotions today? What am I doing to take care of the quality of thoughts today? What am I doing to have better interactions with the other today? So am I invoking the animal in me, the mechanistic in me, the system one in me? Am I invoking the animal in you, the mechanistic in you, the system one in you? Or can we develop, I just did that. I just did 3 seconds of freeze, right? It's a tiny act. And I did that again. So can I create these things where you try and pause and slow down things a bit? And if they're too slowed down, then increase. I speak a little loudly. I'm a farmer, right? So I think becoming aware, and over a period of time, you start, actually, it becomes a nice game that you play with your own self. And you fail. Of course, you fail so many times. And then you beat yourself also sometimes. But then you forgive yourself also sometimes. But I think this keeps on, this goes on and on. I think over a period of time, the vector is the resolve that I want to get to a being, better being, and be closer to the calling and mission of my life. And in the interim, in the journey, there would be various kinds of experiences and explanations that might come.
Wow, that was a fabulous answer. I thought these were thoughts I ought to have had to have the question that I had at the beginning of the episode, and it's so beautifully put uh, in a doable fashion as well. We may be doing it. A prompt that kept coming up in my head was almost the second last line that you used, that it has to be done with awareness, or it is being done with awareness. And my question throughout in my head was, I wanted to ask you, is awareness a part of it? Because without awareness, then it becomes mechanical, then it becomes, you don't slow down enough to understand what is happening, uh, or rather study what is happening. Understanding might be a step that may happen or may not happen, but at least to study, okay, this is this who I am at this moment. Uh, so one last question I want to ask, because now this whole thing has prompted me into a new direction of thought. Where does letting go play a part in this whole thing? Uh, because while you were mentioning this, and while I was thinking awareness, there is still a sense of doership or doing to my head. I wouldn't say that it is something that you were thinking of. Uh, I can actually give a nuanced question to this. This happened this morning again. The morning has been good, I think now. I've been thinking a lot of things. So there are times when I'm working on something. So you and I have been trying to work on something, and if I'm sitting on that document, while I'm thinking, I am completely occupied by the thought and the typing and the knowing of my thoughts and being there. But I am not really aware in a holistic sense. And there are times when I'm able to do both. There are times when I'm able to do neither. There could be a fourth quadrant where I am aware but I am not doing it properly. But I am rarely into that space, because then I'm not working at all. Then I'm very clear that it's just sitting. I'm noticing my body, my bum on the chair or whatever. um, is this a conscious letting go at some point that helps us be better aware, or is it something that needs to be? I want to understand whether it is a doing or it happens. To loosely put, what is your thinking on this? Because you did mention that it's over a long period of time you understand this is aligning with uh, my purpose of life, to use a term. I don't want to restrict it to that, but my sense of being, how I have been wanting to be or am being continuously. How do you see letting go plays a part in this? Uh, because while you did pause and bring in those couple of seconds, but it was dramatic, it was intended to make a point, obviously, but it was all intended at that moment. Where does the letting go happen? And these kind of levels of awareness is what one is looking at.
So I feel that if we use the filter of letting go, then I would should be entering. So imagine I put letting on the x-axis and go on the y-axis. So then there would be something which is letting, and there would be something which is controlling or managing, and there would be the element of go or come or inwards. So sometimes I don't let things in. If somebody is loving to me, caring for me, I don't let them in because I don't know how to receive love, how to receive gratitude, how to receive praises, compliments. So I don't let it in. And sometimes I don't know how to let things go. So I think we have a pattern of holding on to things or letting go or letting in some sense. I think first I would become aware of that I am doing all of this, or all of these are there in my experiences. Whether it's being done or happening is I'll come to that. So that's one. Uh, as you were speaking, suddenly the rates increased here, and there was more
Sunlight.
sounds from outside. And then I gently just put the slide so that I could cover the sound. And there's no sound coming in. And so there was the stimulus of rain, the sound coming, and my ability to move the window. It was because within my reach. Suppose it wasn't within my reach, and if my hands were very small, or the slides were too tight, or there could be various combinations where this would not have happened, whether I want it or I don't want it, right? Or so there is the element of so imagine this slide was 25 kg and not, let's say, a 500 gram, or I don't know I don't know the weight of this, but it was 25 kg and I didn't have muscles for moving it. Even if I want, I can't do it, right? So there is the element of wanting and the ability, right? Sometimes our wants are there, but we don't have the ability. Sometimes we have the ability, but we don't want it. So I think we're fairly complex, actually. That's it. We're not as simplified as we want us to be, or even trading and articulating it. The point here is, and I think here is probably the next few statements might be indicating towards the answer. Nowadays, I walk at least 40 minutes every day on an average. But I wasn't doing this 30 years back. And I wasn't able to do this 5 years back. Over a period of time, the muscles that I'm flexing inside of me, the mental muscle, the emotional muscle, the body muscle, and the social muscle of what others are thinking, not thinking, am I wearing the right outfit, not outfit, am I walking right, bad, should I walk there? I think they're all flexing. I think the more muscles I flex, it gives me a degree of freedom. And when it gives me a degree of freedom, it feels as if some things are happening and I'm not doing. And sometimes when I have to put in the effort, it feels as if I have to put in that effort. And then I'm doing it. So I think at any given point in time, we have both playing out, the doing and the happening. It's just that we are not aware, we haven't gone deeper enough to understand it's both. And yes, there are certain cases where we fall short of doing what we have to do. And we have to own that personal responsibility. We can't just keep excusing ourselves for being entangled in stuff and we have better explanation. Maybe if your life journey is that you want to withdraw from the world and you want to go and stay in some place, that may be your journey, and then you don't want to engage with the world, and then you do something. So I think I must have rattled about 400, 500 words, and I may not have yet answered your question, but that's the nature of
No, I
things.
think you answered it in at least one clear line in my head. So letting go is the first time I'm seeing the phrase letting go could also be the most doing thing ever. Because this whole thing presumes that I am the one who will let go. So then the complexities start. Then whatever I am comprised of is going to then interact with that act of letting and go. Obviously, you broke that up also, but I'm saying even if I don't go there yet, letting go as a phrase, what it means to me or means to a lot of people. presumes that, oh, there is a sense of freedom that I am engaging in, but I am engaging in automatically binds me to that aspect of letting go, and that's what came to me, and that's why I was smiling in the first two three lines when you I said, oh, this is such a beautiful way to look at it. Obviously spliced it up much more, and you are kinder in the sense that you always come to two points of view about the same thing in a, like, doing and happening can happen all at once. Wow, that itself requires a jump to pursue, where one can realize, okay, how does this come about? How does this combination fall in place? To me, there is a single truth moving the world. Instinctively, I feel it. I think there is just no conflict there. That point really pulsates with life, knowledge, whatever you want to call it. It is light, and there is absolutely no darkness of ignorance in that space. Not as an absolute so much, but as a relief to the rest of the world, or the happenings that we are engaged in, or we are. But today there is one more thing that you added to it. Okay, this can be studied, doing and happening. Where is the sweet spot? Where is the balance? Where is the middle path, as the Buddha would have called it? Uh, how do you do enough and accept enough, saying, okay, let's see what happens. I have done what I could, because very often some of the better meditators that I have seen, they really do a lot, but they rarely speak about it. They rarely, even if you speak to them, they don't have that sense of I that burdens the whole event. So while both of us, me and that person, could be doing the same thing, absolutely, but the other person comes with a sense of lightness to the event, but not even aware of the lightness that they bring. It's a very conscious choice they've been making over many, many, many years, and I see the lightness becoming a part of their personalities. So I'll give you one fun example. So we sit for a longer time on once a week, couple of us friends, and we sit together. So in the morning, so suppose you and I were there, and both of us have reached, the other two people haven't reached. So I make a call, and that guy says, we are just entering. And I kind of presume we are just leaving is what was said. So I asked him, I said, they've just left, so they'll take around 10 minutes. So should we begin? We'll leave the door open, they'll come and join. He said, yes. And by the time I finished my sentence, they entered the door. They opened the door and walked in. So instead of landing up saying that I had said this, he said, Arey, we thought you have left now. And suddenly that whole thing eased in my mind of judging myself. Oh, why did I hear it wrong, and why did I communicate wrong? I didn't intend to lie or look down upon the people who were late or whatever. But it just changed. The flavor of that moment and that experience became so light and so non-conflicting in my head, non-judgmental in my head. Like, I felt so good about the other guy saying this, and he didn't do it. But we did. Sometimes your eyes match when you do something like this, to say, look, I did this for you. There was not even that. It didn't matter to him. This is how it has to be done, because he understood that I didn't mean this. So I think this is what you're also kind of pointing at, and a series of destinations is an interesting journey. What I would want to end with. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and this has been one more absolutely fabulous episode. Talking to you is a joy always. Thank you, Hemant.
I think co-created, co-sensed, co-discovered. So I thank you so much.
Yes, I shall see you soon. Bye.